I'll tell you, Shirley Jackson, what a great president you are. We think you are the best president in the entire Division III. Twitter may not agree right now, but hey, at least we're getting the parents to a game. Our friend Greg Thomas, I didn't ask him if I could share this joke, but I think it's appropriate. RPI is having a PG-13 senior day. And what do I mean by that? If you're under the age of 13, unfortunately, you can't attend. Yes.
Really?
Really.
Well,
you have to get the vaccination, and obviously under 13 aren't getting vaccinated yet. You have to show a negative COVID test. You have to pre-register. You have to mask. You'll be on the visitor side of the field. And I'm not sure if you have to do the hokey pokey and turn yourself around, because that's what it's all about right now over at RPI.
Yeah.
Kind of controlling everybody.
The one positive is that the almost 50 seniors, because it's a combination of fifth year and, technical, senior year guys who may or may not come back for another season. Thankfully, they did the right thing for them, especially for the guys who are going to graduate to be able to show them out with some class and some respect, instead of just this ridiculous rule that they've been enforcing for the last 6-7 weeks. And I was really honest. Obviously, we'll talk about the Hobart RPI game. I was just talking with some Hobart parents recently. Thank goodness that the game's in Geneva, because at least everyone can go see it. It's going to be one of the better matchups of this weekend. So we'll have more on that in a little bit.
The one thing that sort of made me cringe when I read the release yesterday over at RPI is kind of the self-serving wording of it. And this is the only game that this is going to be allowed. One game per sport, basically. Because, as somebody said in our Twitter feed, apparently COVID does not like Division I football and pro football, and is just hanging around Division III stadiums waiting for Division III fans to come in. That must be what's going on here. And if Shirley Jackson has figured that out to that degree, and she's willing to just let one game go by where that risk is prevalent, then I applaud her. That is great science right there. Woo! Thank you, Shirley Jackson. Well, RPI, parents at least, and older family members, you get 4 family members. At least we got you this far, and hopefully...
Hey, is there anything in the release about bathrooms? Are they going to lock those, or the bathrooms open for when? I couldn't resist, sorry.
Yeah, let me just say, who the hell knows? But I know that this is season 14. It may be the last at this pace. So
I'm going to need to put something in this coffee to get through this one. Okay.
Of In the Huddle. Might be recreating that Toop photo this Saturday. As we had stated, the plans have not changed. I love it. The plans have not changed for my travel. I am traveling down to Johns Hopkins at Susquehanna, and then it's at Susquehanna, at Muhlenberg. But I've got Susquehanna on the mind. There's a reason for that. You'll see why.
Yeah, I was going to say it.
Yeah. Johns Hopkins at Muhlenberg. Can't cut that. We're live. And then tomorrow we're going to be covering... Are we going to get through this show? We're going to be covering Merchant Marine hosting MIT at noon. And then I'll cover the second half of Gallaudet at SUNY Maritime, New York Maritime, or just Maritime coming up on our slides later on as we do predictions on this show. We are live. We are doing Week 7 preview here. And before we talk about the big news yesterday, besides RPI, give us kind of the view of what to watch for here initially in Week 7 from the 30,000-foot JB view.
Yeah, for the 30,000-foot view, I'd say, there's a few games that are going to get some national attention, like Whitewater at Oshkosh. But there's going to be some other interesting games that will have ultimately some effects on the playoff picture, like Del Val is going to FDU Florham. Greg Thomas, our friend at the D3Football.com, wrote about some of the different Pool C games that are going to be happening over the next few weeks. So if you haven't checked that article out, look it up. And Hardin-Simmons at ETBU could be an interesting game because Hardin-Simmons basically needs to win out to keep themselves alive for a potential playoff berth. Hopkins-Muhlenberg, great matchup. Even Ithaca at St. Lawrence. All the way up in the North Country, the Saints have been dangerous this season. It's a long road trip for Ithaca. And then, kind of elsewhere, the Birmingham Southern center game, Frank, is an interesting one to me because Birmingham Southern has looked so dominant. But center has that ability to put up a lot of points. They have an experienced defense. And we saw a lot of crazy games in the SAA back in the spring, but so far we haven't really seen that this fall. So I'm kind of waiting. Like when's the 1 point, game going to come up here? But so far Birmingham has just been rolling over people. One of the best defenses in the country and one of the best offenses too.
Yeah, it's been interesting that it has not turned into what we thought it would necessarily. I guess we should have known Birmingham Southern with Chris Shuford back as running back would have been a good team, one that would have been rolling here. I think the situation was maybe a little bit too much insistence that Barry was going to be back and defending their spring title. Well, center didn't look so hot last week against Trinity, that's for sure. It looks like it's a Trinity-Birmingham Southern showdown coming up here, but they do have hurdles to get through, and we will predict the Birmingham Southern game at the very least. Didn't look to see Trinity. That's a Region 3 game. You know what else is a Region 3 game now, one that you were mentioning? Hardin-Simmons, ETBU. That's not Region 6 anymore.
They finally got with the program, or at least whatever decision that had been made was finally made official or something. Because we had been talking about the ASC ending up in Region 3 since before the beginning of this season. It sounds like the football championship committee agreed, but it waited until week 7 to announce it.
What they did was they moved the ASC from Region 6 to Region 3 and moved the PAC, which was the PAC, USA South, SAA, and ODAC. So basically the PAC and South as the old Region 3. Well, the PAC finally goes to a northern-based region, which, remember, in the old days, the PAC was southern region,
South region.
Yep. So they're finally getting put where they should be, up north. They're going to be with the NJAC, the Liberty League, the Empire 8 in Region 2 in the Centennial Conference, who returns to action. And now for corrections, errors, and omissions with JB. Go ahead.
Yes. So I had made a bit of a misstatement the other day about not remembering conferences taking entire weeks off together. Well, apparently the Centennial Conference has been doing that since about 2011, according to one of our fans. So nice catch there. Appreciate that. I can't say that I haven't heard from any ASC fans, so that at least maybe I'm half right. But I guess conferences doing the full-on week off has been a thing. I just missed the memo.
You don't hear from ASC fans because they don't like you anymore after all your calls against Hardin-Simmons and everything else you've said about them, I think. That's what's happened here. Just kidding. The ASC, we love you, and hopefully you love us, hopefully. Let's look at some games to watch here, and you mentioned some of them, but let's go a little bit more into detail as to why you want to watch them and what their implications are. I'll start here in Region 1 since I'm attending 2 of these games. I might as well tell you why. MIT at Merchant Marine. Brian Bubna's team is 2-2. However, the 2 losses are to Salve Regina and to Catholic, and by 5 and 10 points. So now that we have seen Catholic, and we know Salve obviously ran into buzzsaw Western New England, but they're still a very good team. MIT losing by only those figures, and then remember Merchant Marine only won by 3 points against WPI a couple weeks ago. So any given Saturday, this game could be a challenging game. Do I think that Merchant Marine doesn't win it? We'll find out later. But if they move to 6-0, it's their best start since 1968. Wow.
Yeah.
Gallaudet at SUNY Maritime, that is a big-time ECFC battle, and they are in need of some, quote, big-time battles because they start their conference play late. And this is one that will help set the tone. There are about 4 teams right now that I would sort of look at as possibilities right now to win the ECFC. You remember, they're not a large conference. I believe, 6 teams in that conference officially now? So they need a game like this to begin to have the thing take shape. But Gallaudet is undefeated coming in. They started late, no doubt. But this is something we get to measure what the teams are a little bit in the ECFC. And Endicott versus Husson, another one of those games we were talking about earlier in the week. The CCC, we think of it's a 3-team race, but Husson still has a lot to say about that. With Endicott going up to Husson, that's always a challenge on the road up in Maine. And so we'll see if Endicott gets tripped up there. If they do, remember, we've got a wide open race then in the CCC still to come if Endicott were to get tripped up there and Husson suddenly is sitting pretty in that situation. So there's those games. I will let you take Region 2 as we're beginning to watch to see how the Centennial Conference develops here.
Well, real quick too, Frank, I think in the ECFC there's actually 7 teams. I'm not sure if Keystone would be considered playoff eligible being such a new program. So 6, 1/2 dozen of the other. Irrespective of that, Region 2, couple of Friday night games, which is great. They're going to have a national audience with Gettysburg at Susquehanna, and a big sort of top 25 matchup between Johns Hopkins versus Muhlenberg. Can the Blue Jays, with the number 1 offense in the country right now in the nation, get slowed down by the Mules, who really need a win to stay alive to potentially defend their 2019 Centennial Conference title? Should be a great matchup there in Pennsylvania, and I mean, offense, defense. Coach Milne's going to be cooking up something. It should be a great matchup. And then, hey, both Coach Milne's and Bubna's alma mater is hosting RPI. RPI is rated, I think, either 23rd or 25th in the ACFA poll. Is that how you say it? American Coaches Football. AFCA. Yeah, live TV.
AFCA.
Yeah. Give this guy the hook. So that should be another great matchup. These are old rivals, and this is a game that either could have an impact on the Liberty League Championship. It could have an impact on Pool C. We'll have to wait and see how that one pans out. And then in the evening, a really interesting Empire 8 matchup, Frank. Utica is going to Brockport. I think that's a 6 p.m. kickoff under the lights. One of the few later games in Region 2. And that's always a great matchup between these two schools. I know Coach Fagiano and company, they still have their sights and hopes set on potentially claiming that E8 crown. To play a little spoiler potentially.
A little technical glitch there, but we got most of what you said at the very end there. We have a guest. I saw our guest was in the wings, and they may have just turned their camera off in the meantime. So we'll see. We want to bring in the guest at this point because they represent one of the Region 2 games that you were talking about in that list. So we'll see. I think we have resolved our transmission feed issues. How's that for
transmission feed issues?
Nothing whatsoever. And let's bring in Michael Ruisch, senior quarterback from Susquehanna. Susquehanna facing Gettysburg tonight at, I believe, 6 o'clock. So we appreciate the short notice and quick duration between now and the game type situation for him to join us. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
we're doing great. We're doing a live show here. You are our first ever live player guest. So I don't know if that should strike horror in your head or if it should be exciting. It's going to be one or the other here. But we did want to talk to you a little bit about the Centennial Conferences getting back to action here after the week off that JB didn't realize they've done for a decade. But hey, we can't be perfect here. You are sure not perfect, but you've been having a great season so far. And Susquehanna is going to have some input, it looks like, in the Centennial Conference race. First, let's talk about Gettysburg and what's coming up in front of you tonight. Kind of for the guys that have to pick this game later on, what should we be watching for in this Gettysburg game?
I mean, it's just another game for us. We try to go 1-0 every single week, so we've just been executing the game plan all week in practice and looking to put on a show tonight.
Well, Frank said something about perfection earlier, and based on my math, you guys have the second longest win streak in the country, just behind the defending national champions. You guys have won 13 games in a row, I believe, dating back to 2019. And I have a feeling that 2019 season is something that's helping motivate you guys. I didn't see anything on neither shoulder, but I imagine there's an imaginary chip of some kind that the Riverhawks feel like you guys kind of got left out of the playoffs in 2019. You were a good enough team to play at that national level. Is 2021 sort of a potential statement season for you guys?
Yeah, we've been thinking about that for the past 2 years, having this off season with COVID too. So it's been on our mind, definitely. And like I said before, every week just got to go 1-0, and that's our biggest goal.
Mike, take us through the season so far. I mean, for you being the leader here on offense, tell us about some of the weapons that you've been utilizing and why things have been clicking so well for you.
All the wide receivers have been doing great, and a huge shout out to my offensive line, making me feel so comfortable in the pocket. They've been doing a great job so far this season, and Coach Perk with the game plans has been on point this year. And the wide receivers have been making plays. Our tight end, Michael Ruisch, D3 Player of the Week 2 weeks ago. He's been great. Lights out.
Frank, I have a funny feeling that aside from the offensive line liking this guy a lot, he must be a really popular player with his receivers because it looks like 8 or 9 different guys have caught at least one touchdown from Michael this season. I love the name of your leading receiver, Kyle Good. I mean, it's good. 4 touchdowns, 229 yards. Tell us a little bit about what are you guys one of sort of the spread offense where you really just like to try to open up the field and look for the mismatches and try to attack in that way?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say we're trying to get our playmakers with the ball in open spaces. That's basically it.
And so I want to go back to one game, though. We don't like to bring up the bad games or the not-so-hot games because you don't have a bad game technically. You're undefeated. But the Franklin and Marshall game, your efficiency was down. The score very tight. What was it, 30-28? And you eked that one out. And I think we did a long review of that game with that 5 overtime situation. But how did we get there in the first place? Because not many people expected Susquehanna to face an overtime situation against Franklin Marshall. What did you guys learn from the adversity in that game that's being helpful since that point?
I think it came down to not executing in the first half and even in some of the second half. And it really brought us all together that game, playing 5 overtimes. I've never done that in my life. And it really made us all closer as a team, honestly. And it was a good wake-up call for us, definitely.
Was it a bit of a learning experience for you, Michael? Because I know for me, I'd kind of heard of the rule change, but I wasn't really familiar with it, to be honest. And then when I saw the thing, there's like 2 points and 2 points and 2 points. It's a totally different format than what the traditional, or at least the old school kind of college overtime rules were. I imagine your coaches had you guys prepared for this just in case, but what was it like to okay, here we go. We're just going to keep going for 2 until we win this thing?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I didn't know that was the new rule, so we were all learning as we were going. It was a great time. I like the new rule. It was a great time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it felt like the referees weren't exactly sure themselves at certain points too, because there were some unnatural breaks in the late action of that game. But I think everybody now knows across the country, or at least most of the country in Division III, what the new rule is. So we helped lend to that, you guys, and we when we had to sit here and explain it to everybody for about 3 hours. But nonetheless, Susquehanna is a team. You don't know this. In the old days, we used to be a Liberty League show only, when we were doing only audio back in the old days when you were a young buck of probably like 10 years old. But back then, for a year or two, I think 2 years actually, Susquehanna was in the Liberty League and then shifted eventually to the Centennial Conference. You've got to be sitting there as I tell you that, if you didn't know that history, saying, why in the hell did they put us into the Centennial Conference against all these teams like the Hopkins out there and the Muhlenbergs, and there's every week is a challenge. Talk to us about the Centennial Conference here. I mean, is this as strong a conference as we think it is? Because some people are not giving the conference the respect they think, or some people think it deserves. Talk to us about the Centennial.
Yeah, I definitely think the Centennial deserves a lot of credit. No win in the Centennial is easy. You got to prepare every week like you prepare for the big games like Hopkins and Muhlenberg. So it's a very competitive conference. And like I said before, just take it 1-0 every single week.
Yep. Well, I mean, 1-0 starts in, let's see, about 9 hours, give or take, maybe 8. Tell us a little bit about what's the game day sort of routine for the Riverhawks. I mean, I imagine that maybe there's a team meal, there's a walk to the stadium. Parents are probably waving from the sidewalk and all that stuff. What's tonight's environment going to be like?
It's going to be a little different because we've never played on a Friday night. But yeah, we usually have a team meal a few hours before the game. Come in the locker room, have positional meetings, go out, warm up a little bit, and then come back in, get dressed, and get ready for the game.
Pretty simple, and then add to it in the Huddle interview on a pre-game situation. I mean, that must be normal for you guys. But your team was beginning to give us a little social media chatter that I need to get there for game day live if things continue the way that we think they might here. And we're waiting to see how things are setting up on the schedule. Ultimately, we'll see if we can get it done this season. If not, definitely next year. But we're trying to make it work here, so we'll see what happens. You are a Pennsylvania native from Fogelsville, Pennsylvania. And some folks may wonder, why Susquehanna? Why'd you stay local, and why that school in particular? Tell us about that journey to Susquehanna.
Definitely the offense here attracted me, and the business school here is great. That was the biggest thing, was the school for me. But yeah, the offense was great. All the coaches, I had a great time with them on my visits, and yeah, that's what it came down to.
All right, Michael. You have the option as a quarterback to quick kick this one, punt away if not. But we've sort of putting guys on the spot all season because this is the unprecedented 2020 COVID situation. You're listed as a senior, and as a business guy, you're going to have to do a little weighing the pros and cons, the credits and the debits of potentially coming back for another season because you will have that eligibility. Is that something you've thought about now, or you're just, I'm going 1-0 tonight and then I'll worry about all that kind of stuff after this season is over? Or do you know kind of already like, hey, you know what, I love this team, I love this school, I'm going to stick around for an extra year?
It's definitely been in the back of my mind, but I'm just focused on this season right now, and I think that's a decision for after the season.
Are you currently I'm guessing you're a business major, and are you looking to do a graduate school year, MBA degree? Do they offer that even at Susquehanna? Is that even an option for you down the line? Because it is a university, and that for folks that begin to wonder the distinction between colleges and universities, This means that there's probably some post-grad instruction and accreditation available for you. Is that even available, though, the track you'd be looking for?
I think I would just have to spread out my credits as it is right now. So, yeah, like I said, that's a decision for after the season.
Yeah, it highlights the challenge I think a lot of student athletes are facing. Not just the question of wanting to come back, but how do you exactly effectively do it, because you may graduate early or than the fifth year and everything else. And so I'm always curious as to how they begin to look at it. JB, I think we have one formality left here.
Yeah, Michael, a longstanding tradition on our show has been we like to give our student-athlete guests the opportunity to give shout-outs to any friends, family members, teammates, etc. He's already actually done some shout-outs to his offensive line, so he's checking the boxes, Frank. But anybody else that we may have forgotten through the course of this conversation, this is your opportunity now. Michael Ruisch from Susquehanna.
Well, first of all, shout out my parents. And second of all, shout out my roommate, Anthony Shikatano, making breakfast right now, cooking up some eggs on game day. Middle linebacker, Anthony Shikatano.
Hold on here. Let's bring Anthony into the picture. If he's cooking breakfast, get Anthony over here. Don't burn the eggs. Please, Anthony.
How we doing?
Anthony, okay.
Yeah, all right, Anthony.
So wait a minute. So we got a 6'4" quarterback. How tall are you, Anthony?
6'2".
6'2" linebacker. My God. So
yeah.
Tonight is a 1-0 night, Anthony. I mean, give us a little defense look here at what we're going to expect in this game.
Yeah, basically same thing Michael said. Just executing our game plan. I think we have a good understanding of it this week. Everyone seems to be on the same page on the back end in the box. Just stopping the run up front, being good on first and second down, and making predictable and let our guys in our sub packages do what they do.
Make sure you kind of go into the box a little bit more. Everybody wants to see your face there, Anthony. One thing we realized a couple weeks ago is that Gettysburg can put up points and can be pretty interesting. So, don't ever underestimate any team in the Centennial Conference is what we've learned. Guys, you are laser focused. It's pretty clear to me. And so this is going to be a good game tonight. I will be watching the scoreboard from Muhlenberg. Obviously, that Hopkins-Muhlenberg game has some implications in the Centennial Conference. And then we'll look at you guys down the line. Want to wish you guys both luck. Good luck with those eggs. And enjoy breakfast as we lead up to game time. It's 6 o'clock tonight.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Good luck tonight. Yeah, I think the defensive game plan, Frank, since I'm the king of the corny jokes, is that they got to be bulletproof, right?
Yeah, I think that's kind of cute. For those that don't recognize what that joke was, go look at the mascot for Gettysburg. I'm not going to even belabor that any further. I'm just going to say, let's go to Region 3. JB, take it away.
All right. Well, in Region 3, now all of a sudden we're talking about Texas. So Hardin-Simmons versus ETBU is definitely a highlight game, as we said at the top of the show, just because the Cowboys need to keep winning to stay alive for Pool C bid. And then in the ODAC, Shenandoah is taking on Ferrum, which would be an interesting matchup. Both teams are been in the mix, some close games, some close calls. Probably one of the more competitive games in this region as far as when I think of scoreboard. So be interested to see what Coach Yoder and company can do. And I think we'll just jump it right into Region 4.
Go for it. You're doing such a great job. I'll let you have 4 and I'll take 5 and 6.
I'll keep rolling here. Ohio Northern is off to a pretty strong start, and they travel to John Carroll in another Pool C big implication type of game. If you're a Washington and Jefferson fan, you want Carroll to win this game. It's one of those things I could see it go either way. Ohio Wesleyan's taking on DePauw in the NCAC. That's another big matchup there that could have an impact on their Pool A and or C bid should they potentially have a 9-1 team there. A couple of good ones here in Region 4. Not as many as we would normally see, but I think it's one of those things where kind of in their part of conference schedules where you're having sort of the top teams playing a lot of the teams from the bottom. So things will start to heat up near the end of the season, I think, but we'll just have to keep it rolling from there.
And Region 5, Lake Forest versus Ripon. We talked to Jim Catanzaro, your replacement, about that game a little bit earlier in the week.
Yes.
On Wednesday when we released the show. Yes, your replacement. He said he's ready to go. So, if you'd like to just take an early retirement, we can offer you some great benefits. So, the Battle of Undefeateds in the Midwest Conference, and a multi-layered puzzle, as we described, is going to have to be resolved, and this is a big portion of it. Being on the road is going to be a tough one for the Foresters. We'll talk about predictions on that one soon. The game of the week, there's no way around this. I had to answer this for quick hits. I don't think anybody's going to be surprised that this was my pick, and probably everybody else's. Maybe Greg tries to throw Cal Lutheran versus Chapman a bone, in this whole thing. But this is a Pool C game. This is Pool C implications, an elimination game for Oshkosh. There are too many teams that are looking like possible one-loss Pool C candidates of strength across the country. For Oshkosh to sit there and think that at 2 losses right now, they are a Pool C candidate of merit. Realistically, here's one thing that went well for them this week. Getting the ASC out of Region 6 means that there are less teams that will block them on the board in Region 6.
Yeah.
That said, they're going to have probably a team like lacrosse blocking them because of resume issues that we talked about. So that 2-loss lacrosse team is really the 1-loss lacrosse team. We got a little bit of that discussion out from our Wednesday show. So just to recap, 2 losses, but one is the Grand Valley State of Division 2. That will not be considered the same way as a loss to 2 WIAC teams, for instance. So lacrosse as a 2-loss team could be considered. Oshkosh as a 2-loss team, probably not. This is an elimination game, or if they win it, it creates real havoc in the WIAC as to what happens from there in both Pool A and Pool C down the line. So stay tuned for that one for sure. Cal Lutheran versus Chapman is a big game with SCIAC implications, and Cal Lutheran has surprised some people in this season so far. Chapman was kind of the darling. Yep, Chapman was kind of the darling coming into the season, but Cal Lutheran may have a lot to say about that. We'll see where that goes as well. So as I begin to get our screen ready here, before we go to our predictions portion of the program, pick me one game here that if you had to, aside from Whitewater Oshkosh, okay, let's just throw that one out. What game would you say, okay, I can only watch one Division III game this weekend? Which of these games would it be?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of good choices here on this menu. I would say probably when you had to boil it down to rankings and implications. I mean, if it's not Hopkins-Muhlenberg, a game that you're going to, I'd probably have to say Lake Forest versus Ripon, because it's a battle of 2 undefeated teams. And at this point, if we carve out the NESCAC side of that equation, because they're not going to participate in the playoffs, there's only 25 undefeated teams left in the country out of 239. So that's makes a pretty big deal. And as Coach Cat mentioned in the show earlier this week, very different sort of offensive game plan now for the Hawks. It should be a totally different style of game than we saw in the spring. And the Foresters have been on a roll. So I'd maybe go with that one.
I think you've got something there. Part of me would like to see a Hardin-Simmons ETBU up close and personal, because ETBU's that team that we're just waiting for ETBU, though, to do something to deliver to us one of those big upsets we expected them to probably help create havoc in the ASC or something along those lines. Hardin-Simmons has to stay perfect here. And so if you're a team like Oshkosh and you end up losing this weekend, let's say, which I know they don't want to hear, but if that were to happen, getting Harden-Simmons out of the one-loss column would be huge at that point, because that's one of those quality one-loss teams I was citing, that there's too many of them ultimately. So a lot to watch there. That Harden-Simmons ETBU game could be, at ETBU, a very interesting one to watch as well. And then we've got games I'm going to. We've got them in the lineup here. JB, I know you're a little taller than me, but you might want to kind of shrink down a little bit here, because your head is almost blocking your big win-loss record right now that I really don't want to talk about. But since your head's in it, I have to sort of talk about it. 36-23 for me, 44-15 for you. So that means we just throw in another extra game to predict here. We'll have to be a little bit faster about how we're doing these things. And, I'm okay with this. I am great for the comeback. This has been the season of the comeback in crunch time. We can make this a crunch time type moment, and at the end of the season we can do all the replays on this and everything else, and commentate how great my comeback was. By the way, for those watching live, if you've got any questions while we're doing this for the next 12 or 11 minutes, I guess we have on the clock, send us tweets right now at D3FB Huddle, at Frank Rossi, and we'll answer your questions at the end of the show. We probably have one or two pending out there, so we'll do that after these predictions. So send it right now at D3FB Huddle or at Frank Rossi if you're watching a live show on Friday morning. Having said that, we've got our music ready, we've got our game ready, we've got a clock that's ready to begin. Are you ready?
Whew, I hope so. We'll see.
Well, too late if you're not. It's MIT at US MMA in the new MAC Region 1.
Oh, geez. I don't want to pick against Coach Bubna, and I don't want to pick against Coach Shoop. It's like trying to pick your favorite kid. But I do feel like something special is happening in Kings Point. Ian Blankenship, I think, is going to be the difference maker in this one. It's going to be another close call. Could be another goal line stand or field goal type of game. I think a little lower scoring, perhaps. I'll take the Mariners to hang on 27-24.
You know what? Exact same score I was going to pick, to be honest with you. I think the same thing you're saying. My prelude earlier about this game was a little bit, I think, interesting that, you look at the losses MIT has. They aren't horrible losses the way that they lost. 5 and 10 points against teams that are very good. Collectively, one loss between those, or 2 losses between those teams right now. So that should tell you a lot about MIT, and Merchant Marine can't look past this team. It's going to be 27-24, as you said, in favor of Merchant Marine. Got a lesson yesterday from our friend Sam Atkinson at Gallaudet. The U is completely silent, and so when we pronounce it, it's Gallaudet School, National School of the Deaf, so that we get that right for this weekend. So Sam, thank you for the info yesterday, and good talking to him, the SID over there. SUNY Maritime is hosting this game. I'm going to give the edge to Maritime. Mickey Rearing's gang, I think, are pretty good at home generally. And so I think this is going to be a good game, don't get me wrong, but I'm going to give the slight edge to Maritime, and then Gallaudet can tell me how wrong I was tomorrow if they end up pulling it out, because I'll be there for the second half. Maritime in a 20-17 win.
Well, Gallaudet, as if I'm saying that right, the Bison have only played 3 games, and here we are, their 4th game going into week 7, so it should be well rested. I think the Bison's offense, though, is going to wear down the Privateers a little bit later, and they'll walk away with kind of a upset on the road, I guess you could say. I'll take the Bison 35-21.
Wow, a little higher scoring than I thought. Endicott at Husson, go.
Gulls, I think they'll win big, kind of like they did last week, even though it might start off slow. Gulls win in the end, 42-21.
Got to like Ingrafia, the quarterback that they've seemed to land on over there. He's been putting up some good numbers and consistency now. So that was my big question mark about them last week going into that game. He made that question mark into an exclamation point ultimately. I will say Endicott wins 35-21. And let's move over to Region 2, Gettysburg at Susquehanna. And I can't see how Susquehanna drops this game. Those guys were laser focused, thanks to Mike and to Anthony, who's making breakfast. If you just joined us, go back and watch the replay later of our live interview with Michael Ruisch, senior quarterback at Susquehanna. They are laser focused. It's not just because they want the attention that they want us out there. They believe in their season right now. And so I will say they win a somewhat a high-scoring game, higher than probably some will think Susquehanna should allow. But I think the Friday Night Lights situation maybe changes the feel of this game a little. 31-26 in favor of Susquehanna.
Well, I don't think this game is going to be that close. I mean, Gettysburg is still in the process of turning things around. And this is a Susquehanna team that put up 62 points 2 weeks ago. They're going to be coming off the bye, locked and loaded. I think they win this game 70-21.
Staying in the Centennial Region 2, Johns Hopkins at Muhlenberg. Go for it.
I think the Hopkins offense is just too explosive. And I think Ryan Stevens, their quarterback, has got some of the best numbers in the country. I will go with the Blue Jays in this one. It's going to be a tight game early, but the Hop pulls away late, wins it 42-31.
This was the game I was tempted to pick as my upset in the top 25 on Quick Hits, and I did not end up doing it because I agree with you that under the lights is going to be very tough here for Muhlenberg to beat a Johns Hopkins team that has played night games somewhat frequently through the last few years and is just a team that is a freight train, I think I called them in Quick Hits, and something else that was I wrote about. So Hopkins wins the game. Stevens and company put up a lot of yards, a lot of points. 41-24. Here's your game coming up. RPI at Hobart. I got RPI red on. I think it's RPI's day. They'll have parents in the stands, even though it's the away game. That's important here. So thanks to Hobart for that. And the Engineers have played a meaty schedule. Granted, they have not faced Ithaca or the triumvirate of other teams in the Liberty League that we've been watching here. It's an elimination game for Hobart. I get that as well because they're one loss, and if they were 9-1, maybe they get Pool C consideration. If they're not Pool A worthy at that point. But I think RPI gets the edge here in double overtime, 37-36.
Wow.
Actually,
the last time
hold. It has to be by 2, right? In the second overtime?
By 2.
37-35. Yes. Sorry, 37-35. My bad.
All right. Well, I mean, it almost required overtime the last time RPI beat Hobart, which was in 2015. They stopped a 2-point conversion that Coach Craig called to go for the win, and they're 0-2 in their last 2 trips. So I know George Marinopoulos wants to win this game. That's where he made his collegiate debut. But I still feel like there's something about the Boz. Statesmen are 8-0 there, and so they haven't lost a game since 2018. So I'm going to go with these guys, 24-21. I think it's going to come down to a field goal. It's going to be a close defensive battle.
When you say about the Boz, you talk about the stadium or number 1 on the roster?
Both. Yeah.
Okay, just checking. Utica at Brockport in the Empire 8. Didn't think I'd go to that joke, did you? Go for it. You're first.
I think this is a game where maybe Brockport rebounds. I think they can put some pressure on Utica. And the way that Utica likes to throw the ball, there could be an interception here or there that could be returned for a touchdown possibly. And Brockport always plays great at home. So I think it's going to be a really close game. But I think the defense might make the difference here and edge them a 31-28 win.
Got to score points against Utica to win. Fagiano's crew has been close in a number of games, kept Union close through 4 quarters. I have no reason to doubt they can pull this off on the road right now with Brockport losing as they did in the second half against Cortland last week. Utica wins this game 31-20. Let's go to Region 3, Hardin-Simmons to ETBU. I just can't see ETBU having the horses right now to do it. against the Cowboys. Okay, bad pun. It's not really intended, but it happened. Hardin Simmons, I think, knows the urgency and will win this game. Kyle Jones, can't say enough about him still, what he tried to do against Mary Hardin Baylor, and so he knows what has to be done here. Hardin Simmons wins this game 42-24.
I'll also go with the Cowboys, though. They seem to play to the level of their competition. They are going to scrape by in this one. I think it's going to be a 31-21 win, but it's going to be close.
Region 3, Shenandoah at Ferrum in the ODAC. Go.
I'll go with the Hornets. I think they might surprise us. Though certainly wouldn't be surprised if Ferrum takes it. But it seems like the Shenandoah team has got a little comeback spoiler in it. So I'll take the Hornets 24-20.
This is tough because Ferrum has looked really good at times this season for sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick the home team here. Why not? You get a little diversity in our picks too. Ferrum wins with that defense. 27-17, I think is going to be the final score. Ferrum over Shenandoah. Ohio Northern at John Carroll in the OAC. While we are not the big John Carroll, fanboys, I guess, that a lot of the country seems to be with them in the top 25 right now with 2 losses. Ohio Northern has had one of those seasons where I don't even know how they are a one-loss team right now. They've had all these close games where they've had to come from behind and everything else. This is an elimination game for them, let's face it. And
yeah,
I think they get eliminated here. And John Carroll does win it at home. 42-27.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think the Blue Streaks will win this one. I think it'll be a lower scoring game, though. I think they'll outlast the Polar Bears, let's say 28-14.
Lake Forest or Ripon?
Foresters in a close one. I seem to be picking a lot of the away teams. I don't know if that's going to be a good thing or not, but A.J. Jackson with a punt return touchdown might be the difference. So I'll take LFC to win at 35-31.
One of my favorite punt return clips ever is the opponent's announcer basically saying it's the best you'll ever see. Illinois college announcer telling us how great those punt returns were. That should tell you how great they really were. And A.J. Jackson's a beast out there. They win this game.
Yeah.
42-30. I think I keep picking 42. So if we see a lot of 40 spots this week, I'll probably be in luck. Whitewater at Oshkosh. I'm going to add about 90 seconds onto the clock because we added some games here and we didn't really add to the clock. So I know I'm cheating when I say or do this, but it is what it is. We make the rules. So I think that loss, the way it happened last week, it will end up still haunting the Oshkosh Titans. I just don't see how you're going to be able to get over that situation against a team like Whitewater that quickly. Yes, you're at home, and I understand why Eck is getting cut off there, so we'll fix that in a second. Yes, you're at home, but I just think Whitewater is a team that has way too much gusto right now. And so, lower scoring, 24-14 Whitewater.
I think Max Mailer is going to have another 4 or 5 touchdown game here. It'll be close early, but
timeout. Myler.
I should have known. Okay, sorry, Max. My bad. 35-21, and I'm picking the Warhawks to win. So at least I got something right.
And it's the Skyette game. It's the last game. It didn't copy the right way as we were taking a timeout there. Cal Lutheran at Chapman. Hit it.
I'm going to go with my Kingsmen from my old neighborhood off the 101 freeway there in Conejo Valley. I think they'll outlast Chapman by the score of 31-20.
I'll give us some Saturday late afternoon or evening action to watch then, because Chapman's going to win this game as the home team, 31-28. The clock expires, the music expires. I'm about to expire at this pace.
Yeah.
And JB, fun show as always, but we want to hear your last views here about Week 7 and the takeaways that you're looking to have. If things go according to your plan, what's going to be the end result that we'll be talking about next week?
Well, we didn't see any really crazy upsets in Week 6. It was kind of blowout city. So hopefully maybe this weekend will provide some more competitive games. There's a few major kind of marquee matchups which will really define some conference Pool A like championship races that'll be resolved in the next couple of weeks. Like we've sort of said, there's a lot of teams out there with sort of backloaded schedules. Susquehanna's one of those teams, and they're going to play Hopkins in Week 9 on Halloween weekend, which is going to be a big weekend kind of across the board. But they need to keep winning games like tonight to sort of tee up those major Week 9 and 10 matchups. And I guess, Frank, we might have to talk about dusting off the old D3 Blitzer show, which we haven't been able to do for a couple of years now with this whole COVID thing and everything else. We haven't had our whip around, let's run around all over the country and see what's going on. And we're getting close.
We will see how that turns out. JB, one thing I want to ask you to do, if you can briefly, you were a little hoarse today, I noticed. And
hoarse, yeah.
And so could you explain what's going on there?
Well, this week I happened to have a couple of live musical performances, one with some friends that I haven't done a live show with in over 600 days. There was an event here in town where we performed for like the wine and dine crowd. It was very nice, Frank. As you see in Winter Park, we like to wine and dine near Park Avenue. And then last night I just because it's Biketoberfest. Yeah, that was me on Wednesday night, rocking away on my bass guitar. And then last night I sang for about 3 hours in what felt like 90-degree heat up in DeLand near Stetson. So it's been a busy week. I'm actually looking forward to this weekend having nothing on my schedule except sitting down, watching some games, starting with the 2 we have tonight, and then all the games through Saturday, and just not having any place to go, not having any other things to do, just watching some D3 football. Should be great.
I want to go back to this for a second. I mean,
geez.
That there's a fan's hand in a certain area that is from a distant way, so folks don't get the wrong idea.
Yeah.
But I mean, JB, that is posture and stance as a guitarist. I mean, hold on here. We got to zoom in a little bit here. I mean, that's just like wow. I don't even know what to say.
That's when you're getting into it. You have the rock squat power stance. You got to really establish a strong foundation, especially when you're the bass guitar player. You got to really bring the thunder, and so that's what I was kind of channeling my inner Michael Anthony or John Paul Jones with that one, I think, and it felt good. I play a little bass guitar in the band that I'm in now, but I hadn't done it for a full 3 or whatever hour night in a while, so it was really fun. It was great to see those guys again. It's been a long time, and we had a blast. It was a really fun night.
Got to be on the road, as you know, starting later this afternoon, heading down to, I keep wanting to say Susquehanna, and they have convoluted my thought.
They want you to be there, Frank.
You saw Michael Ruisch. You saw him light up when I brought up the whole Twitter thing from a couple weeks ago. So it's real. They all know what's going on. So it is what it is. We'll get there eventually, as I promised. But Muhlenberg is where I'll be this evening at around 7. And then, is it 7 or 7:30 kickoff for that one? Check for me real quick as I keep going here on Merchant Marine hosting MIT on Saturday at noon. And then the second half I'll catch of the SUNY Maritime game hosting Gallaudet. And remember, we'll have Twitter interviews usually within 24 hours after the game, or each game in this case. What time's that?
7 o'clock 7 o'clock Eastern, by the way.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So I don't be late for that. I'll leave here around 2:30, hopefully, and get there plenty of time. Muhlenberg is a place that Union used to play all the time. I've never seen a night game there, though, to be honest, and this is a huge night game. So when I saw this on the schedule, or ATN talked about it in their podcast on Monday, I was like, this is a can't-miss scenario, especially with the weather right now is being cooperative in this area. This is going to be a perfect game tonight. The elements should cooperate. Watch it rain like the Dickens. I didn't look at the forecast, but no, I think it's supposed to be good weather, and if you're able to get out there and watch it and enjoy it, please do. This is great under the lights, Friday Night Lights, Division III football with rankings on both sides of the equation. So that should tell you something right there.
Yeah.
We'll see you throughout the weekend on Twitter. We'll see you on Facebook on Tuesday or Wednesday of next week, and our live show late next week. And we will continue to bring you the coverage you've been asking us for. Thanks for joining us. JB, have a great weekend. I will talk to you, and we'll talk to you soon, folks.